Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm chilling in my sweatpants in my bed. I feel like my outfit is very like I'm chilling and my makeup is not, but I was filming another video. That's a side note. You guys will see that video soon on my Instagram. I'm excited to share it. It's like a get ready with me holiday video, but all of that was a side note. I call that exiting off the freeway. When Dan and I are talking and he'll go off, I'm like, don't exit the freeway, stay on. When in reality, I exit the freeway all the time. But today, I feel like I'm probably pretty blabbery because I'm a little nervous, mostly just really excited to share with you guys what is going on with our adoption and really update you more specifically as to what is happening. So I uploaded a video a few weeks ago, maybe a week or two ago, about our adoption and where we're at, but it was more along the lines of like, how I'm feeling, just random little details, but there were like some specifics that I told you in that video that we had to keep out, that I couldn't share yet, and that I would share with you as soon as I could. And today I'm doing this video by myself just because Dan was fine with that and didn't really care. I was like, do you want to be in this, or do you mind if I just go film that right now? And he was like, yeah, you're fine, just go film it. So it's just me today filming this little update, but it's actually not a little update. It's actually a huge update, like a huge U-turn of events have transpired over the last couple of months. And some of you guys are probably going to be really excited to hear this because a lot of you have been saying this to us for the last couple of months and suggesting. But I have to kind of I'm trying to even think of like where to start this. Basically, the gist of it, and then I'll tell the story, is that we have withdrawn from international adoption, and we are now looking into and pursuing domestic adoption here within the United States. So yeah, this is the big news. It's kind of crazy because the entire time, not only like through our whole marriage when we thought about adoption, but also like through this entire adoption process since we decided back in that first week of March that we wanted to start it, we only had our hearts set on international adoption. Now, there are a few reasons for that. One of those is obviously we have like a specific connection, even though I don't know if you can really say that because it's not like we were adopting through China, but my brother is adopted from China. So we kind of had this leaning towards international adoption. Also, when my parents were going the route of US adoption, their whole experience was just not very good. Now, and that's actually part of why they ended up going the route of international adoption. It's a little more complex than that, but I just remember it not being like a super great experience for them and them being left with kind of like a bitter taste in their mouth. And then on top of that, we know a few people that have adopted and had some bad stuff go down. And we said in the beginning when we announced this, like, we aren't doing it because of all of the bad things that we've heard about US adoption. And honestly, the thought of someone just changing their mind and showing up on my door and being like, hey, we want our kid back, like for whatever reason they gave their kid away, whether they were dealing with sobriety or whatever, it's like, well, I'm sober now and I want my kid back. And it's like, this child has been my family for years or whatever, or them deciding that they don't like that I'm so public on YouTube or whatever. We want, when we adopt, that adoption to be final, like we had the child. Now, not fully, and I'll get to that in a minute as to what we've learned. Like I need to kind of complete this thought, but that was kind of where our head was at. Now, to back up, the big like secret that was happening with our international adoption was that when we were kicked out of the Korea program, we were actually admitted or submitted or brought in to the Colombia program. And that sounded great. We were really fine with any country. And we were brought in, and shortly after we were brought in, we had a couple weird things happen. Now, you guys know our whole experience was kind of a little weird. Like, you guys don't know every little detail, but you've heard the gist of like the country programs we went through, being accepted to Korea, being kicked out of Korea, being accepted to Korea, being kicked out, all of these things that happened. So there have already been weird things, but there was kind of just some weird stuff that happened after that, including my social worker calling me one day out of the blue. She's never called me on the phone. And I had emailed her and told her, you know, we're going with the Columbia program. And she called me and was like, hey, you need to call up Holt and make sure that that what you think is going to transpire is going to transpire. Meaning, she said that in her experience, she has never seen an adoption take any less out of Columbia than like 3 to 4 years, which is, you know, I mean, who knows? God, it's all in God's timing and it's all in God's hands. But in terms of like our earthly plans, we're not trying to wait 3 to 4 years for a kid. And then on top of that, she said she had never seen a child come out of Columbia younger than the age of 7. So, which at this point is also not what we're looking to do. We were looking to adopt ages 0 to like 3, maybe 4, but really 0 to, honestly, our optimal would be like 0 to 2. So she was like, you need to call them and you need to confirm this. So, because she was like, maybe stuff has changed. So I called Holt, and actually it was both of us, but we spoke to them and they basically kind of told us, you know, like, that's not what's going on anymore. Stuff has changed within the Colombian government. We don't foresee you waiting that long, and we foresee you kind of getting the age that you're looking to get. So they gave us that answer, and for some reason, after that phone call, just something switched in us, in both of us. And this is what I actually was telling Holt, that I don't believe that it was necessarily because of them. So that's kind of part of this issue too, or this story, is like, because I believe that everything is gonna work out how it's supposed to, and it's all part of God's plan, and he works things together for good. I can't sit here and be like, oh, I wish that everything had gone differently and then maybe we would have stayed on the international path, because now I'm just like, well, clearly at this moment, that's not what we're supposed to be doing now. So it is what it is. So all the bouncing around in the programs and stuff, like, I'm not like, wish that would have gone differently. I mean, of course, part of me maybe feels that way, but most of me just feels like, hey, it all plays out how it's supposed to play out. So yeah, we had this phone call with them. They gave us the answer, but afterwards we were left feeling very unsettled, and we couldn't quite pinpoint why. And so Dan and I talked about it, and we were like, look, why don't we just pause until we get some clarity, until we feel peace, versus just continuing to move forward, even though we're feeling a very distinct sense of like, don't move forward, or like unease. Now keep in mind, we feel unease during this entire process because it's not an easy process. And as I mentioned in my last update, I've got first time mom freak out feelings where like every step is like, I want this, right? Like, it's all scary. It's like choosing to get pregnant over and over and over. It's not. And I realized, side note, some people in the comments last time took what I said in like a different way than I meant it, as if I was saying that pregnancy is easier than adoption. I do not think that. I think that they're different experiences. I think that same thing about like even the love you have for the children and the child. I think that you love them the same, would be my guess, a bio child and an adopted child. But I think that the experiences are different. Like, one you literally grew in your belly from your DNA, and one you brought into your home to love. And I think they're just different experiences. So that's what I think about pregnancy versus adoption too. It's not easier one way or the other. They're just different. So, and side note, now I'm like responding to the haters, even though I know it's not haters. But I also realized I didn't clarify because sometimes I have a hard time clarifying everything because I already just blabber on and on and on. And sometimes I'm like, which things do I go back and clarify? And I realized after the video went up, one of those things that a few people commented on was saying like, Nikki, is this like I don't know, I feel like there's like a huge shadow on my face. Sorry, this lighting is whatever. It's so cloudy outside today. A few people were like, Nikki, I really think you should think about and be open to special needs. Because I said that we weren't looking to bring in a child into our home with special needs. I guess I should have elaborated on that. Like I said, it's hard to decide what to elaborate on. We are not completely opposed to a child that has special needs. We would take on a child that has special needs, but there's a spectrum there. And at this point, we don't feel called to adopt a child with moderate to severe special needs, but we would totally take on like the mild to moderate range of special needs. That being said, I don't feel bad for saying that, because of the fact that no mother, when they're pregnant, prays that their daughter or their kid is going to have special needs. Oh my gosh, I hope that my baby comes out having special needs. Nobody asks for that, at least I don't think so. So I don't feel bad saying that. But that being said, we're open. Like if God leads our heart somewhere else, or you know, you can't control what happens to your child. We could get a child and then something could happen to them and then suddenly they're severe special needs, or they're a person with severe special needs. So it is what it is. But that's the awkward thing about adoption, is you have to make those decisions ahead of time for paperwork's sake. And it's a horrible, weird feeling. And it just is what it is, but you have to be honest with yourself and you have to just take the time to answer those questions. So we're not like sitting here saying like, no. It's just, if we were looking for a situation, we're looking for mild to moderate, not the moderate to severe range. I'm repeating myself now. Anyways, backing up. So Colombia, didn't feel peace. And we put a pause. We're like, let's just wait till God changes our heart, because we believe he's going to give us peace and direction. And nothing was really happening for about 2 weeks. We were kind of just like, whoa. And then one day I went to this thing at our church called like Brews and Hymns. It was like a hangout outside where the worship leader was like playing music and everybody was like having a beer, chilling out. I didn't want to go that night because I had a panic attack that day. And that's kind of a side note. Since coming out of the Korea program and reevaluating kind of like what's been going on in my life and how I've been feeling physically, pain level wise, as well as mentally and emotionally, I have decided to go back on my SSRI. That's a side note, and I almost feel like that needs potentially its own video. But at this point, I hadn't been back on it. As of now, on another side note, I've been on it for like 10 days. And I don't really want to give any feedback yet. But yeah, it's been interesting. So at that point, on that Sunday, I had a panic attack, and it was my second one of the weekend. So I was tired. So we didn't go to church that morning because my panic attack that day happened like minutes before church. I couldn't pull it together and go. So that night though, Dan was like, look, you've been in the house all day. Like, you've calmed down now. This isn't going to take much energy for you because it's just chill in someone's backyard, twinkle lights, we're singing hymns. Let's get you out of the house and go. So I'm like, okay. So because I'm someone that is like so uppity, when I'm feeling really down, I feel like I can't hide that. And then I feel like I need to explain to people like why I'm feeling down. Like, oh my gosh, if you noticed I'm feeling down, it's because of X, Y, and Z. Because I feel like I can't fake it. Like, I'll show up and be like, hey, what's up? And it's like so evidently opposite how I am other times. So maybe people don't even notice, but that's like what was going on in my head. So our pastor's wife was there, and I ended up telling her like, yeah, I'm not doing the greatest right now. I'm feeling a lot of anxiety. I had a panic attack today. I don't even remember the whole story that like I told her, but she was like, this was right before I went to California for like this big trip where I was in California for 2 weeks and then Israel for the 9 days. So this was right before that. And she goes, well, I don't want to add to your to-do list. So if this isn't a good thing for you, say no, because I don't want to be just like another thing to do. But if I can support you, I wanted to offer this. Why don't you come over to my house this week? And I just want to like be there for you and support you. And she's like, we don't have to talk about adoption stuff, because side note, I keep saying side note, but backing up, our pastor and his wife, they have a biological daughter and an adopted son. They adopted here within the States. And we had been asking them to go to dinner to discuss adoption stuff. So she knew that we were going to do that, but she was like, oh, since it's just us, like, we'll wait for Dan. We don't have to talk about adoption stuff. I just want to be there for you. And I was like, meh, yeah, that's fine. We don't have to talk about adoption stuff, but if it comes up, like, I can fill in Dan. So I go over to her house and we end up talking adoption stuff the entire time. And basically she ends up telling me her story, every little detail, start to finish, of the adoption of their son. And as she's telling me her story, I'm getting this like peace over my body. And she basically, not only was it a feeling, but she started answering questions and saying opposite things of thoughts that I had had about domestic adoption. For example, the parental rights, the whole fear of having a parent show up. It turns out that those bad experiences that I had heard from people who had adopted within the States were people who had done foster to adopt, which is the government program. It's a part of the foster program, and a kid can sometimes come up for adoption, and they went through that. Apparently that program is very different than like private adoption outside of the foster care system. So she told me that when you adopt privately within the States and someone signs away their parental rights, that's it. They basically cannot just try to go get their bio kid back. That child becomes yours. In fact, the paperwork that they signed said this child is now their names, David and Nicole, as if Nicole gave birth to him. So it's like an official transfer of parental rights. Now, side note, this is something I was going to say earlier. Back when I went to, so to those of you that don't know, I'm a distributor with Young Living. Hey, look at my diffuser. That thing's going right now. I freaking love that. I went to Young Living Convention earlier this year. Well, it just so happens that on my team, the other people that are on my team, both like my uplines and cross lines and all those MLM words, are a lot of adoptive parents who have adopted. I worded that weirdly. And I got to talk to a handful of them, and a lot of them talked about the beauty of open adoption and how it's so cool that their kids get to stay in touch with their bio parents. One lady was saying that like her son was adopted because the couple that had him were like 15 years old. They were in high school when they had him. And so she adopted their son, became her son. Well, they ended up staying together, and then they got married like at 20, and the son was the ring bearer in the wedding. And she was just saying it's so beautiful to be able to keep that line of communication open and also have some answers. You know, I've thought about this before, that like my brother, unless someone pops up on like, you know, 23andMe or a DNA thing, there's a chance he'll never know who his bio family is. And, you know, part of me, I mean, this is how I feel about all suffering and pain on the planet. Part of me is like, well, that sucks, but like everyone's got something. There's suffering everywhere. But then obviously part of me is like, man, that's sad. Like, because that's got to be a question that he has and a longing in his heart. So that's kind of a cool part of domestic adoption, that I didn't know all of that parental rights could be permanent, so that if the birth parents are like, I don't want to be rude, but like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, or they turn around and try to do something crazy, it's like, sorry, this is my child. We can have like a very distinct boundary. But then also, I like the idea of our adopted child being able to be in touch with their bio parents, if that's something that is possible and makes sense. So she, you know, was explaining that to me. The other thing, this is weird to say, but it's all weird to say, and I'm already letting it all hang out on the internet, so I'm just going to be honest. I had kind of thought, when I had briefly thought about domestic private adoption, apparently I really didn't understand it all, like I said, but the little bit I had thought about it, I thought of domestic private adoption as like, I don't know, like a puppy mill. Like, oh, there's no shortage of parents who want to adopt domestic and privately, and I'm just going in and like taking a kid from someone else. Like, am I even filling a need? Because even though adoption, there's half of us adopting is because we want to create a family and we want this little family unit and raising a kid. The other 50% of it is because we want to fill a need. You guys know that James 1:27 is my life verse. That's what I feel called to and connected to. And to those of you that didn't know that, I'll just quote James 1:27 to you. It's actually, I don't know if you guys can see, it's actually what I have tattooed on my wrist. But it says, the only religion that God our Father finds pure and faultless is to take care of orphans and widows in their distress and to keep yourself from being polluted by the world. And so there's kind of this twofold thing. So I said to her, like, are you even filling a need? Like, not, I don't know, that sounds like insulting to her, but this is something I wondered, like, or is it just like there's only a couple orphans and a bajillion parents that want a child? I feel like I worded that weird. This whole thing, it's like you say stuff and you're like permanently paranoid you're saying the wrong word and it's like not what you mean. But whatever, people can translate things how they want to. And she made the most, like, whoa, random. She made the most amazing point. She was like, first off, for you to be matched with a child, that's a miracle in and of itself. That's a God thing. That is God choosing you to be the family of this child. And second off, the parent has to choose you. Like, they could have chosen anyone. And I was like, duh. Like, that totally like flipped a thing for me. Like, oh my gosh, that makes sense. That's not man, that's God putting a family together. And second off, she had mentioned that there were people that she knew that had adopted, and the child that they had adopted had siblings that had not been adopted earlier in life, and so they were in the foster care system. And so had that family not adopted that child, they might have been in the foster care system too. And so also having this realization that not every child that is up for adoption gets adopted, was also very interesting to me. So she answered a lot of questions, brought a lot of peace to my heart. I came home. Hi, baby. Come here, come here. I came home and I told Dan about this meeting at her house. What is happening? You really want to go back to that window, huh? You really want to go back to that window, huh? She's so cute. So I came home, told Dan about the whole conversation, meeting situation, and he instantly, it was the same thing, instantly felt peace. He was like, well, that's what we're doing. I was like, what do you mean? He's all, I think that sounds great. And I was like, okay, this is weird. We both instantly felt like this peace. So we stewed on it for a couple of weeks. We didn't just like feel it and jump in right away, even though maybe we could have, but we wanted to make sure we weren't just acting impulsively. You know, I consulted with my therapist. We talked to family members, people at church, and we just kind of decided, okay, we think that that is the path that God's calling us towards. So it's crazy, man. It's all just like, I feel like we've just like bing, 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 like been all over. But at the same time, even though, and I've said this before, even though I feel like some of the things, the issues that we've gone through have been unique to us, maybe because of our job or, you know, health history or whatever, I wanted to still, this is what I wanted. I wanted to document the process and for you guys to see that it's not just a matter of like waking up and being like, I want to adopt, and then just adopting. Now I will say some people's paths might be a little easier. I was messaging with, I was talking to my friend Mel here in YouTube. I can't remember what, oh yeah, their channel's called Mel and Shane, and they just adopted their son from Korea last year or earlier in the year. And she was saying like that their process was definitely easier than ours in terms of like getting in the program and just like hitting the ground running. But everybody has their own unique challenges in their adoption journey. And there's part of me that like, it's funny because some days I'm freaked out and I'm scared and I'm like, what's happening? Like, what am I doing? And then there are other days where I'm like, I know that God is weaving together a beautiful story in our lives. And I know that when it's done, it's going to be like crazy to look at, to see the path that we were on to find our child, to do what we're supposed to do. And it's just kind of crazy. So yeah, after we sat on it for a few weeks, we decided, okay, that's what we need to do. So we, you know, told Holt that we need to withdraw from international adoption and pursue domestic. And that's where we're at now, pretty much. Okay, so domestic adoption, crazy. We have applied to a couple of agencies. I want to say 3 different agencies. The first one had a waiting list. They were not accepting any more parents. And then the other, actually it's been 3 other ones, because then we sent 2 other emails and I haven't heard back from them just yet. I mean, this is literally transpired, like the applications, within the last couple of days. So we are at the very beginning of the domestic application process. Oh my God, she's so funny. She is in like crouch attack mode. So yeah, we're kind of just working down the list because we got a list of domestic agencies from our social worker, and I'm kind of just working my way down the list because I don't even know what to expect. I think I'm getting on the phone with a friend who has adopted domestically a couple of times, but I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, even when I picked Holt, it was like, I picked Holt because not only do they have a great reputation, but also because my parents had adopted with them. So I felt like there was a little more like knowing what to expect. But I feel like I'm flying blind with the private thing. I'm like, I don't know. Am I like doing the right things? Am I applying to the right places? Are we gonna need a lawyer, or do you not need a lawyer if you're at a private agency? Like, I don't know, it's crazy. So that is where we're at right now, which is insane. And now you guys finally know the truth, the current truth of like what has been going on and why we had to keep things quiet. And the reason we had to keep things quiet before was because I was not going to tell you guys that we're pursuing domestic adoption, or that was what, you know, what we were doing, without having told Holt that we weren't going to be working with them anymore. So that's all squared away. You know, we're out of the Columbia program. We're moving on to domestic, and that's how it goes. That's the story. So I thought this was actually, I feel like I've been talking forever, but then I just looked up and it's only been 26 minutes. So I'm kind of shook right now that I spoke that fast and got all this info across, because I thought for sure this was gonna be like a 45-minute video. So that's cool. Huh, Zoe? Cool. This little dog peed on my bed last night for the first time ever. I don't know what the heck happened. So weird. So I'm on my mom's fur blankets right now instead of our comforter because we had to wash our comforter, Zoe. So weird. All right. So I guess in closing, I want to say that if you guys have, please, 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 if you have any tips, information, links to articles, videos that you know are reliable and helpful, please send them to us, because yeah, I just kind of feel like we're flying blind a little bit, and I feel like, how are we doing this? Like, just in, I mean, I feel that way about the whole adoption, but especially now with domestic, because that's not something my family has any experience with. So please, anything you have, leave it down below, anything you want to share. And yeah, I'm all the emotions. Like my therapist says, emotions come in sets of 3. I'm excited, I'm scared, I'm anticipatory, is that a word? A little anxious, amped, I'm everything. So, all right guys, I will see you back here soon. Okay, I hate saying bye. Bye!